Rock. Roll. Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for coming. It's 6:33. I'd like to start off with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Amber Benson. Here. Katrina Binkowitz. Here. Doug Day.
Here.
Joseph Wetmore.
Here.
Edward Levine.
Here. Item number 4 on our agenda is Milton Meadows, and I've asked our planner, Mike Long, and also Guy Crow, if appropriate, to chime in. You want to start this conversation where we are as far as the status go, and cricket also, this may involve you if it goes, we talk about roads, whatever, so feel free, if it's appropriate, to make a comment, okay?
Sure. Well, what I'll start with is I gave you a little packet that was out in your mailboxes, and I included a couple different attachments of updated maps. The first sheet is the realignment for the intersection of Woods Edge. As you know, we talked about just giving it a little gentle nudge. The drawings have been completed, submitted to DOT for their review. They've come back with a couple comments. The comments are being changed. As you know, we've got a $75,000 grant to pay for materials from Senator Helming. The Highway Department will do as an in-kind project and use their equipment and labor to complete the work. So I think this is moving along quite nicely. The second piece is talking about trying to, as I mentioned earlier, and I've forwarded you some of the information earlier, was the Cornerstone has requested that we grant them we call it an easement or a license, is what Guy has talked about, so that the area that's in the town land that will be continue to be owned by the town, they will build the future town road for that section. And so basically it's an agreement to get that done. The way that the highway laws are set up currently, traditionally they ask to have the road completed and finished and accepted before you get building permits. And as you know, we've talked about this before. Their request is to basically put the road in place, do all the infrastructure, but leave the top off of it until after the construction is done for the balance of it. So I put in your packets the steps and the phasing that they're proposing at this point. I've also given you a map, a color-coded map that shows you how they propose to do the interior. So phase 1 would be where that red area is to the left. So that would get them into the roadway itself. And then as phase 2 is constructed, that basically gives them a construction access road to the back, and they can work from left going to the right. So basically what they're trying to do is to have everything finished as they're going from the left to right, so to speak. And as you can see, then phase 3 is a little parking area between the two buildings, 7 and 9. And then phase 4 is the completion between buildings 8 and 10. So.
Can I ask a question on this point?
Sure.
Okay. Phase 4 is supposed to, my understanding, be set up so that it can loop around and connect back to phase 2, so it becomes a loop. And I'm wondering why that's not been done at phase 4 point and put sometime in the future. My understanding is they're setting it up so they can keep that, so they can loop that around and make a full circle so that you again have easier time for the bigger fire vehicles and stuff to go through. Nobody has to back up and turn around to get to any point in the project.
This is phase 2 is the loop.
Yeah, but my understanding is, from what I heard, that they're leaving that end open so that they can also loop that at some point in the future.
That was to connect to somewhere else, I think.
If there was an additional
Yeah, at this point in time,
building group.
The original site plan did not include that connection. There was debate about where it would be, here or there, and the result was the closer where the blue is. So again, that part will all be a private road, private driveway. It was all set up so that it would meet the qualifications for the fire department in terms of turning radiuses and things of that nature. So what we're looking at in terms of the license agreement or the easement is really just the future town road, which is on the bottom of it.
It's really just that bottom thing, it's the town road, it's theirs.
And they'll build that out as the highway specs.
Correct.
Yeah, so otherwise they won't get a CO.
Right.
Just for some background information, they will be here next week, at our meeting next week. Cornerstone will be here. So if there's any questions, we're having a weekly conference call on Monday. We'll ask them that same question, or any other questions, or if other questions come up, we can ask them next Wednesday also.
So what we're approving is that whole arrangement for them finishing the road at the end instead of the beginning. Is there anything else the board is approving on this project?
Well, eventually there'll be other things, either from the planning board until they can get their building permit, but this is
No, I'm
critical.
talking about this board. What does this board approve other than that?
For next week?
For the whole project, what are our approval points on this?
Well, the last sheet in your packet is the subdivision plan. As you can see, there's a large map that it's very hard to read at the scale, but I was just trying to give you an idea of how they would carve out that piece of land. Again, Guy can probably give you a little bit more accurate information on the process, but so the license agreement for the guarantee of the pavement completion and the subdivision are probably the two other things that the town board would be in consideration.
I think what we're doing is, if I understand this correctly, is we're going to give, instead of the normal operation where the road goes in and we offer a building permit, or they can get a building permit, we're doing it in reverse.
Yes, in the past,
Yeah.
you'd have to.
We'd have to have a road in before we get a
Right.
building permit. This time, we're talking about a resolution to do that in the opposite, or the reverse way.
Mhm.
Yeah, in the past, you would have a flag lot where you would own that strip to get in there, and then you would dedicate back to the town. That's one way that you can do it because it's landlocked. We've done that in the past with another developer where we allowed them use of the road before it was dedicated to finish up the product, and then when the road was upon its approval, then we gave them the CO. So there's a lot of different ways we can guarantee the finished work done beforehand. This is unique in a way because they don't really own the land where the road is. But they want to have use of the road, and they also have to do certain specs to bring it up to our specifications. And once again, cricket specifications. And if that doesn't happen, they don't get a CO.
And their engineers have supplied a cost estimate for all the items within that whole town road area. And again, Crickett's currently reviewing those prices to make sure that they're compliant with what he believes it'll cost to actually do the work. We anticipate that they're going to do 95% of the work. It's just going to be the top surface that will be left until the end of the project.
They're going through phase one first, and
Correct.
just phase one, and phase two is what they'll do that with phase two of the building.
I believe that what they're going to do is to build phase one, rough it in, build those buildings. Put in phase two. Again, we can get clarification next week if they're going to pave the final part of phase one while they're building phase two, or if they're going to wait until they do all of it at the end. And you get a better job if you wait until the whole thing's finished and then do it once.
Right, when are they moving people in?
October 2020.
No, phase one, phase two, phase three?
Well,
Phase
their
one.
request is phase one.
So the question is, are we going to ask them, the people who are moving in there, to be driving over a rough road for some period of time while
It's
they're
not
building?
going to be that rough a road, it's going to be binding.
It's just going to be the drag surface on the top.
I know, it's going to be similar to when they.
So it's not a hardship in any regard. Am I wrong, Cricket?
No, so I mean, at the end of the day, they're not going to seal all except the top coat.
Are you going to have trouble plowing that rough road, or is it going to rip it up?
Until the town takes ownership of it, they're going to be responsible for it. So while the building and stuff's going on, I mean, like I said, when we get ready to take it over Paul, there'll be asphalt on it.
So if there's a winter through that period, are they?
They're aware of that. We've
Okay.
talked to them about it.
Okay.
I think, for clarification, I believe what they really would like to do, their request is to do phase one, move people into phase one, then start building phase two. So again, I think they're going to have 95% of all the infrastructure in place. It's just going to be that top surface until. So, Guy, you want to add more?
Well, there were a lot of questions there and a lot of comments there. I would first note that the vast majority of municipalities in New York State don't require that a roadway be completed and dedicated prior to issuing building permits or COs. And there's a number of reasons for that, but one of which is a statute that says either it has to be officially mapped and suitably improved, and the standard is so as to emit emergency vehicles, or they have to issue some form of security as approved by the town board to guarantee it will be approved in the event they fail to complete the project. And so this is not a unique request. The town has done this many times. We did this for Lansing Commons. We did this for, who else was it? Woodland Park. We did this for, it's actually far more common than people believe, but they want to use an irrevocable letter of credit to guarantee the whole cost of building the road in the event they fail. And as Mike pointed out, or I pointed out, I forget, the unusual thing here is that they don't own the land upon which they're building the road. So they need the land rights to get in there, which is going to be a license or an easement in gross of some sort, and the language on that's being worked out because it's got to get approved by a bank, and that always adds wrinkles. Going back to the question of what will the town board need to approve, ultimately you're going to accept the dedication of the water lines when they are completed, tested, and functional, and that'll probably occur on a phase-by-phase basis. You'll need to approve the sections of the road as they are finalized and completed on a phase-by-phase basis, because we don't undertake maintenance or snow removal until they become public highways. Roads and public highways are two different things. You'll need to approve their license or land rights to get in there, which we've already done for purposes of testing. Now we're doing it for purposes of construction. Sort of the same thing as was originally envisioned, and their insurance was originally written broadly enough to cover it. And we would ultimately also need to approve whatever it is that they ultimately submit as a letter of credit or a bond or a performance or surety bond, and they've gone with letter of credit. Ultimately, that's a form of approval of a contract, and our local law requires that the town board approve that, as does New York State law. So what I think they're looking for is approval that the town will allow them to proceed under town law section 280A, which says that as long as it's a mapped or officially recognized street or road, suitably improved, then they can get their building permits and their COs. And whether that letter of credit is in the right amount and whether it has terms that are sufficient to protect the town, that's something that's under consideration. They sent a draft LOC. I sent back 4 comments. They sent back 4 replies. I sent back 3 comments, blah, blah, blah. So the letter of credit is pretty much in good shape. It's only if there's a default, all we have to do is make a site draft. We don't have to argue with them about. We just say, pay up. And then they can argue with their bank about whether they should have paid or not paid. But for us, the issue is if there's going to be people there, we don't want to have to jump through hoops to get our money. So I demanded that it be a site draft-based letter of credit written on ISP or UCP standards, and they went with ISP 98, which is the right way to go. It's easier. It's built specifically for irrevocable letters of credit. So everything looks okay. It looks like it will be okay, but of course, until the bank actually issues the letter of credit, you can get a commitment letter from your bank, but until they actually give you the mortgage, you don't know what's in it. So I think what we're approving is the plan, and then at a later date when they want the building permit, they're going to submit the letter of credit. If it's fine, they'll get the building permit. If it's not, they won't. And the longer they wait, the more risk they assume.
And right now, they anticipate October 30th or 31st is their closing date for their financing. And so they're hoping that at that point in time, they can give us the letter of credit for the road, and hopefully we'll have the permits ready for them to actually build.
So are we going to move Wood Street before they close on all their financing?
No.
Woods Edge?
Yeah, no. So
We
we're
don't have to do that until we get ready for them to occupy and the state finally.
Until they're a done deal, we're gonna just leave that road the way it is.
We're
Okay.
trying not to spend any money on our side until we're not 100% sure it's a project. So we're 99% there.
I understand.
The last other thing that I'll mention to you as well is last week they had the County Health Department out doing the septic systems. They've come up with an engineered design solution. So in this map you can see where the proposed field would be for the absorption with the expansion. They have from what DEC told me, I followed up going the other way as well, that it will probably be a slightly smaller footprint when they got into this new system that they're working on finalizing right now. So I think they've got over the hurdle of the septic system and approvals from DEC for that. They're basically the DOT curb cut access is the last piece in terms of trying to get everything arranged.
So I know they're planning on keeping all the trails open. I also see that they're doing construction really near the trails. Are the trails going to be closed during some of the construction period, or are they going to fence that off and keep them open?
Well, I know that they're dedicating the trails as part of an easement agreement.
Right. Are they going to be open during construction, or are they going to be closed during construction?
I think it'll depend on where and what time and what's going on. If there's heavy equipment out there, I'm sure they don't want people using the trails.
Well, to work the trail, well, are we talking about the cross-country, or are we talking about the trails in general? Or?
There's trails on the map here that are pretty close to the construction.
On the left side of the map,
Right.
and there might be need for staging materials as well, so we should probably ask them at the next.
I'd like to know
Yeah.
whether the trails are going to be closed, and if they have an idea of how long we'll have to close them, because people are going to ask. I'm already getting asked whether the trails will be there, so I'm sure people want to know if they're going to be closed during construction.
Trails will be there, it's just a question.
I know that. My question now is, will they be there through construction, or will there be a period where they're taken out and put back?
So what I would recommend is by Monday, if there's any questions that come up later on, the conference call is Monday.
Okay.
And this pertains to this process, not just this Monday, but any Monday where these questions come up, is to email everybody and we'll ask those on conference call what the questions are and sensitize them that this is an important issue. And then we want those trails open as long as it's not a safety issue.
Yes.
But on the other hand, we also have to be respectful of them and their project. So any other questions that come up, let's get them in order so we can ask them, and we'll have answers for you. We can even respond that day as far as that goes.
Okay.
Cricket, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, based on, as a person that kind of enjoys trailways where they do, I think where they're facing construction, I don't think there'll be an issue as far as, there's gonna be 3/4 of that that's gonna be away enough, they may just have to mow a different swath for a reroute, but I think the only place I can see a potential would be kind of where the bottom comes back up around, and then on the front side by the state highway there, but I certainly wouldn't see any reason that the trails wouldn't be accessible. Maybe a small altered route on the one piece just during construction.
That's good, I like that.
I totally agree with you, Chris, that once we have confirmation as far as where the safe zone is, we can temporarily move that trail over, get going on it now, so that it's all ready, so that it's done ahead of time, so people have a chance to be conditioned to go there, as opposed to, what's this in front of them, right? Okay, or orange fence. So, once again, these are all good questions. The sooner we get the information, the sooner we can be proactive and get in front of this, okay? So, I guess, to wrap up Milton Meadows, there will be a resolution at our next meeting for that purpose, for the license for them to work on the road. Is that correct?
That's what I understand. The guy's working on it now.
Good. Any other questions from the board before we move on to your next project? Okay.
All right, the second package that you have is about Myers Park. As you know, one of our projects that we talked about extensively is trying to update Myers Park. Steve Colt had proposed that we amend the original master plan that was done last year to include a multi-purpose structure. I thought it was a very nice idea. So what we did was we had Beardsley update the master plan drawing that we had the colors map. And we also had them update the construction numbers so that we'd have current numbers for this construction period. And that became the basis for trying to put together a project for these grant rounds. And so what I've done is included in your packet a little spreadsheet that basically, if you look at the first page in after the memo, there's a spreadsheet that looks at the items that are in the Beardsley report. As to item number 7 is riprap along the Salmon Creek, bulkhead erosion control along the marina inlet, dredging Salmon Creek, the marina, remove the pavilion and provide an elevated platform there, and upgrade the existing restroom. So the way that the state works these projects today is this consolidated funding application. And so everything is computerized. And unfortunately, they only do it once a year. And all their projects are all due the same day at the same time. And you go through a computer maze and you pick the programs that are applicable, and then it throws you questions for each one of those programs. So you may have 50 or 100 questions after you pick 2 or 3 programs. So for this particular grant application, what I did was I picked 2 of probably the most likely grants for this particular program. So one is the New York State Department of State has the Waterfront Revitalization Program, which is the one that we looked for last year. That is a 75% matching grant. The other project that is applicable here is the New York State Environmental Protection Fund, which is the parks project, so basically parks within the state of New York. So those are the 2 most likely candidates for this project. The EPF Parks grant is a 50% matching grant. So the way I've structured this so far is to basically take the estimated costs, apply 50% of it for the materials, which is what we would request for the grant. The other 50% of the anticipated cost would be the in-kind labor and equipment that would be the donation from the town through the highway department and the recreation department. So similar to what we had set up last year. So as you can see, there's 2 columns here. One is if we can get funded through the Waterfront Revitalization Program, then it's a $750,000 project in terms of grant, and it would be about $1 million project overall. If they push it through the EPF Parks program, then it's a $250,000 is the maximum that they have available for that. And again, trying to show how it's a 50-50 match, so we have to basically scale it back to match up with that. So that's why those last 3 items are not included. So basically, Steve is saying that the priority really is stabilizing Salmon Creek and the bulkheads. The DEC has received the Army Corps of Engineers permits. They've all been submitted. T.G. Miller did the drawings and application photographs for that. So that's a big help to have that piece of it. We don't have the formal approvals yet, but we can talk about that in the grant application that we've submitted everything and we're waiting for the final drawings. DEC is asked to have a field visit and take a look at the conditions before they may change some of the things in terms of the design solution. So that's the next step in the process. Again, I don't know, the way that I'd like to have this set up is, in the memo I talked about basically a couple steps that we'd like to do. And one is to just verify the update of the Myers Park master plan. We're going to kind of basically adopt this master plan as part of the things that help get us points. The second piece of it is to do the seeker review and approval. And Guy has already started taking a look at that. We did one last year for the grant, but we want to update it and make it so it's not stale. And then the third is to authorize the supervisor to officially submit the grant applications itself. So.
Can I ask a couple questions?
Sure.
I was wondering how many times you dredge Salmon Creek. Is this done yearly, every 3 years, every 5 years? It's never been done?
I think Griffin could probably tell you.
So it's been probably
It's been a while.
12 or 13 years since we went through a little hiccup here. We have an open permit. We We tried to get to it last winter, but obviously winter wasn't very cooperative. So the range is basically, it's like December 31st to like March 17th, 19th, somewhere is the window they give you to get in there. So that all depends on kind of how the winter goes for us, the water levels. So we still have we have an open permit that was valid last year. It's still good through this winter. So we're in hopes to get it taken care of this year. So, and then we're going to work on maintaining an open permit. They'll do a 3-year thing, so we can kind of, hopefully keep it on more of a maintenance schedule versus, making it, a bigger project every time it happens.
Do you want to keep it at a certain depth of water? That's why you dredge it?
Well, no, it's not as much the depth. It's just, with the erosion and stuff that comes down through it. I mean, obviously, anybody that remembers kind of over the years how the point kind of keeps building and building. So the theory is kind of take some off and create a little extra storage rather than keep pushing it all on the lake. But obviously, it helps greatly with, if we get a real cold snap or something, the ice buildup, becomes a concern for, people that live there in Myers, where they see the ice backed up and the trestle kind of hold it back and the water levels up. And so, I mean, it's just kind of more to ensure the safety of the residents there as well as, to preserve the parkland as much as we can too.
The other point is you cannot increase the depth. You cannot dredge in the water, correct?
Correct.
So it's
that's part of
only
the plan.
exposed gravel
Right.
or whatever's
So,
exposed.
yeah, you can basically take it within 6 inches of the water table, or the water level at that point, so.
At the point you're dredging, that's why you do it in January when the water level's low.
Yep, correct.
Unless it rains.
Or it melts.
Unless it rains, and then they can't. And there's a window, and correct me if I'm out of line here, there's a window they have to rent the equipment, and that's thousands of dollars, and their window is they have to use that equipment, and when it rains, that all goes away. And if it gets really cold, then the ice builds up. I think it was 7 years ago, Scott Penny came in there at 3 o'clock in the morning and broke up the dam so the trestle wouldn't get lost. Railroads are kind of sensitive about these things. And they don't have to ask permission, they just do it. Having said that, last year we're gearing, are we down low enough yet? He says, we're working this back and forth. I mean, and he says, you know what, it's not going to happen because now we're into February, and here comes another rain. And then here comes, I mean, it was the perfect storm not to get this thing done last year.
I mean, that's the toughest gamble is, we're looking at, $20,000, $25,000 of equipment to make it happen. So it's kind of got to be a sure thing. I mean, the timing works out all right, with the forecast, but this last winter was just the ups and the downs. We got to that last 2 or 3 week window there. It's just like, it's not going to happen. So.
Another question I had is on the map, site number 14, which has parking either, I don't know if it's for boats or for cars, and then all the way down to the creek. So does that mean you're going to have another launch where people wait for boats or kayaks? Or?
Well, if you look at, it's hard to read the numbers, but
I think that's 14.
there's a proposed kayak launch site, which is, if you see where all the little colored boats are on that one stretch by the parking lot, just to the north of that. So again,
There was a concept, Andrea, to take the kayaks, which are not very pretty storage, move them down the stream so that this area at the point would be the big ornamental pavilion, with a view.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but why does I don't know if that's going to eventually, I guess it's eventually going to be paved. Why does it go right to the creek? Near the extended pavilion?
I think that's number 14 she's talking
Yeah, I'm
about.
talking about number 14.
Again, this is just a concept at this point. It may never get there. It may get moved around.
Well, she's trying to understand the concept.
Well, there is a road there, and I think what they were
It's all
thinking
gravel
was,
now.
they were thinking of just bumping the parking off the existing road that's there. But you're right, aesthetically, it makes sense to pull away and have a little more buffer
Yeah.
of green area, so.
There was a side launch site there, I believe at one time, it's not still there on the crib. But yeah, there's no reason why you can't pull back that blacktop, so there's a little buffer, a little green there.
The road is right there, so
It's a
it
bit of
does
a
the road
clash, don't you
itself.
think, between water and blacktop? There's
Well,
something.
there's a better reason than that. You don't want all the surface runoff to go right off the blacktop and into the creek. You want that buffer area to absorb
Yeah.
some of the impurities and stuff. So, and people with kayaks have no trouble with green areas. They can
Yeah.
launch there.
Okay.
So you could pull that into the green area.
Just straighten out the road.
If you did it, but not everything, Michael, am I correct? Not everything has to happen exactly the way it is on this map?
No, this is a
There's some
concept.
flexibility?
And actually, at this point, we're not even applying for money for any of that work. We're primarily focusing on the stabilization of efforts, so that's not proposed at this point in time. We're trying to take care of the restroom facility if we can with the big grant, and the more critical things, the infrastructure.
But you're asking us to approve this concept map as our plan for the area.
True.
And I think I'd be more comfortable if we moved that little spot over into green as the area, as the concept we're
Why don't we
approving.
just cut it off?
What do you mean?
Instead of having it go to the creek, cut it off and make the driveway straight.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's sort of what we're saying.
Exactly.
Don't let
So
it,
you just said it differently.
yeah.
Same concept. Yeah, that's fine, that makes sense.
Well, I mean, we're adopting this map in concept.
In concept. If you want me to have the map changed, I can get that done.
Yes, please.
Just show me exactly what you want to
Just
do.
straighten that road out along there
Yeah.
so it doesn't go to the creek.
That doesn't, that bothers
So
me.
there's no gravel there.
I'm with Andrea on this.
That
All
does
right.
bother me.
I know, well, Katrina, we balanced this, we went back and forth, 4 or 5 times with it last year, trying to
That's true.
figure out what.
There was a lot of
Michael, do you have a
tweaks.
green pen?
Yeah.
I have a
You have a green pen, a green magic flare, we'll just bang
Well, I
on.
think Mike understands what the change is, and we can agree.
Let's mark it on here, so I
Yeah.
make sure I get it right.
Okay. Any other?
Just to let you know that we do need to get the resolutions adopted next week, so that we can get these in, time critical. Again, I've been working on it, trying to get it all done.
If you have a map up here, I'll mark it for you.
Yeah. Good.
Well, that's the point, I don't know.
Okay, are you talking about where the kayak is now?
No, we're all here.
Where it's proposed?
Where the
or where
blacktop
it's
looks
now?
like it runs right into the water.
14.
Oh, yeah.
There's multiple 14s.
Yeah,
in the park.
are there multiple? Yeah, there
We're
are.
talking about this.
Yes,
One,
yes.
All right, this was meant to
Yes,
be.
that's
okay,
good.
so we're talking
This
about
is meant
That,
to
Yeah,
see,
that's
that's
fine.
what I asked.
be. Okay.
I thought this is the 14 you were looking
No.
at.
Yeah.
No, sorry, okay.
That's why I wanted to.
Right, I'm looking at the map and going, the commentary isn't matching what I'm seeing, so.
So that is a boat launch.
That
That's a
is.
different
That
story.
is
Yeah.
a different story.
Oh, that's a boat launch?
Yes.
So conceptually, is that comfortable with the board as a kayak launch? I think it's a boat, or is it a boat
No, the
launch?
boat launch, I think kayaks just toss it.
Well, here they're gonna have the kayaks. See, they moved the storage of the kayaks. They were here, they're sliding them down here. And again, this can all move.
Yes.
No, that's all fine. If that's really a boat launch, then there's a reason for it to go down to the river, and that's a different story.
That's
That's
really
what
another
the
thing.
question. Is it
I
a
thought you were
boat?
talking about this spot here,
No.
kayak.
Okay.
That's a much better place.
All right, so leave it alone,
That's fine.
okay?
Yeah, if it's
Now
meant
that
to
we-
be a boat launch, then
All right.
something has to go change. Okay.
No changes.
Okay.
Okay.
Even as a boat launch, it wouldn't be that wide. It wouldn't
No,
need to be that
it'd be
wide.
fine. Well, there's a reason for it to be,
Yeah.
as opposed to we're just running the asphalt to the
Right.
edge of the creek because it was more convenient or something.
Yes. Now we're on the right 14.
Are we done with Myers Park?
The left
Any other
14.
questions from anybody? Because, like I said, we'll have to approve the resolution next week, and I would be comfortable before we do that.
I have one more question.
Sure.
What's the thinking of removing Pavilion A and making it so much bigger?
Well,
Elevated
Pavilion
platform?
A, I think partly it's a flood issue.
Okay.
It gets very wet.
Okay.
There was also a concept that Steve Colt had sketched out, a new type of pavilion with a fireplace in it. And
Yeah.
a very rustic, camp-looking pavilion, which really looks
You know
very
the
nice.
one over at Teganic where they have weddings and stuff, receptions over there? It's North Teganic. There's a rustic pavilion with a big fireplace and it's quite
Talking about the
lovely.
red one?
Yeah.
It leans towards, away from the lake.
It is rotting.
It was
Okay.
made in 1969, it's leaning. That was the other reason why we,
It's elevated because of flooding?
Well, that's part of it, but
That's
also
part of it.
deterioration, it's in bad shape. They were gonna take it down, but they're trying to get something to replace it.
You're making it much larger, or are you making it so that you can split it into two and have half rentals for people?
That's part of it, and also change the orientation so that it looks at the lake a little nicer.
Okay,
I mean, you just imagine either
okay.
retirement parties, anything like that, that vision there, you see the lake right there because it opens up to that end.
Okay.
You're right at the point, it's just, it's a tremendous spot. It's a
It is.
great location.
Okay, thank you.
Okay?
Okay, moving on to the budget. As everyone knows, did everyone get my email? Joe, did you get my email? Is it 2 T's or 1? Because I probably sent one that had 1 T.
One
So you got it.
I think I've gotten several emails about the budget. I'm not sure
Thank
which
you.
one you're referring to.
Just that, when everyone's available, because I think at our next couple working meetings, we'll start to talk about it. Also, when everybody's available during the day, if they want to talk to the department heads, we also have to make sure they're available.
I've already started that process.
I know you have, and they appreciate it. That's what the feedback is. So I know that Katrina gave me hers. I talked to Doug about that. Andra, if you're interested and are available during the day,
During the day.
what the availability is, and if you have questions, once they submit their proposals, like we did with this right here. What's this mean? What's this going on? So everyone's comfortable as we move forward.
Do you need me to submit something here, or just keep doing what I'm doing, which is talking to individual department heads and working out times?
They're going to submit a more concise budget. I want all the board members to be comfortable. And however you do that, I used to go up, as Tricia can attest, I used to go up and ask them certain things. That was the way I got to my comfort zone. But if other people want to do it differently, that's fine. As long as you give enough time to accommodate them, because I think Cricket just came from work here tonight. He's been going since, 6:30 this morning, and,
Cricket's been very generous with his time.
Yes, and like with most of them, they appreciate you reaching out to them. They'll make time for you. You just got to give them a heads up. So however you want to work it, that's fine, as long as at the end of the day, when we have to have a serious discussion, everybody's prepared for that. So I'll leave it up to you. Bullet point budget, that was a misprint. I will say something about the budget. I'm going to go back to that for a minute. You may or may not know this, but Steve Cole has taken the retirement package. His last day will be the 31st of this month. So what does that mean for next year? Having talked to Patrick and Cricket about this, what the goal is, at least in my vision, of course with the board's approval, is eventually we have a Department of Public Works. And that means because we have more water lines, more sewer lines, how does that involve the rec department? And maybe the fact that the parks maintenance will now be under the highway department. Maybe that's the way it goes because we have rec people that are plowing snow, so why not do multitasking? And it's easier to get tasks done if you've got 5 guys running over here or gals doing it and doing something else as opposed to one being stretched all day. We'll leave it up to Cricket and Patrick and Michael to work that out. Mike Mose, that is.
Can I ask Guy a question on that?
Sure.
Given that the highway department is semi-autonomous, does this twist our arms in any way or constrain us to put other things under the highway supervisor position?
Does what twist our arm?
The fact that the highway supervisor is somewhat autonomous with his budget and his workings, I'm still trying to understand how that autonomy separates, and I'm just asking if we get, since he's in charge of his budget, once we do it over a little bit differently than the rest of them, are we constraining ourselves by consolidating parks under the highway?
Not if you actually do a DPW, which is something that the town's been looking at since prior to the millennium.
Okay.
So you would create a DPW by local law, and it would have an organizational structure, and it would consolidate multiple disparate functions into a single department. For its size, Lansing is probably one of the few municipalities in this area that doesn't have one. Would the highway department still have local control, sort of institutional control over its own highway funds to fulfill the duty of the highway superintendent? Yes. Most likely, but obviously I can't say, Many DPWs, when they first start, are literally have a dual office holder. The elected highway superintendent is also the head of the DPW, but as they start to grow, so hypothetically, if the town of Lansing were to become, I don't know, the city of Rochester, you'd actually end up with appointed positions or whatever as the head. How all that plays out and how you structure it to work specifically for this town would be something the board would decide if you decided to jump that direction. The prior plans that were in place for DPWs, there have been 3 of them, they've all been loosely sketched. Pretty much all of them foresaw consolidating all of the public works into a public works department. Water, sewer, highway, parks, building and grounds maintenance. And that consolidation has already started to happen. What is that there's working at cross purposes, having people being cross-trained, sharing services across departments, which has always been a hallmark of this town's particular avenue of success. So the question is, with the various departments that you have and looking at any potential fiscal impacts that you wouldn't necessarily foresee, when is the appropriate time to make the formal switch to a DPW and consolidate functions into one department, with the thought that, at least on paper, most people do it because of ease of administration and overall cost savings. Whether or not that will be true here is something that you as a board would have to determine.
So, long term is the goal. Short term is now Patrick will be in charge. We'll do a need assessment. He has the online things coming on board. We do online registration. You're very familiar with this, talking to him. The rest of the board, wants to do online registration. That'll take some time. But also reduce some of the workload. Okay, the other thing is that moving forward with this is that we'll see if Maureen wants to stay. Okay, if that's the case, we'll widen her responsibilities. Do you need another person there as your program director? I think until January 1st, we'll see what Patrick says. We'll do the need assessment since he's the heir apparent to some responsibilities. We'll see. There'll be a smooth transition because Patrick has been very involved with probably all aspects of this. So it's not like, oh my gosh, what do we do? So now's the time to take a serious look at, okay, what does that department need? Do you need someone as a program director to interact with the school and the library and the community and form other, because one of the things I'd ask is that Steve had great vision and he should be commended for that. Okay, what's the next person's great vision? Where do you want to go? I mean, the way I see it is that the town, the library, and the school form this triad, so someplace these kids are protected from breakfast to dinner. They're going someplace where they're safe. And we've done that, and to Steve Cole's credit, he's found people that were for bus drivers. You know, so he's almost like started his own farm system that way. Because bus driving, and this is one that we talk about with the cricket. Do we get the highway guys or the rec guys to do it? I mean, we just got Owen Davis, who just got his Class B license. And he's in the rec department. He can plow snow if he has to, or drive those big trucks. So having said that, these are all things that have been in the works, but now that Steve has moved on, now it's time to take a serious look at where we want to go with this and where's the next person's vision. And does the board approve of that vision or not? So in the meantime, though, you maintain continuity, and then you move forward in a methodical way and find out where you want to go with this. So we'll have those discussions in the future, but I'm planting the seeds now. The other thing, and please don't take it wrong, Cricket, this doesn't work out, the board has the right to redo things also. So it's not like it's locked in stone that this is the way it is, but this is the way that they have, in many cases, have been doing the unofficial. You know, they work well together.
So let me ask the question in a slightly different way. Once you put money into the highway fund, you can't take it back out. When we create a Department of Public Works, if we choose to, are we going to have a highway budget separate from the rest of the Department of Public Works that keeps those monies from being commingled so that we can move them around?
Well, I'm not going to pretend that line item financing under the comptroller's rules is a specialty of mine, but my understanding is that depending on how you structure it, the same highway funding rules would apply its general funding would be within the Department of Works line item. So once you had the agreement as to what was going to be done in a given year, or you authorized the highway superintendent to have X amount of expenditures for labor and materials to do a certain amount of work, it's at his or her discretion to expend it. You can always amend your agreements to do it, but there's some strange rules that still exist that are hangovers from the 1800s about how far and how much you can control Cricket's department, just as those same rules exist for Deb and for the courts. There are lines. It's supposed to be one coordinated group effort, but when things don't work well and things aren't planned out ahead, sometimes they break.
And so we do have the authority to say that the highway department is in charge of public works and spread that out, or we have to get agreement from the highway department, from the head of the highway department? Do we have the authority to add this to Cricket's job description?
Well, more likely what you would do is create a job description for a manager of the Department of Public Works or whatever that is. And you would have Cricket as your highway superintendent elected, also acting in the dual capacity as appointed to lead up your DPW.
Okay.
Okay? Whether or not that entails additional compensation, normally it does, but I don't want to speak for the board. How that all is going to work, how that all is going to play out, whether that's going to stay that way, whether you're going to consolidate those into one permanent position, elected or appointed.
I'm just trying to understand what the legal, what we can do and what we're not allowed to do, and that clarifies.
There's a pretty good summary on DPWs. I think it's the Department of State, or it might be the comptroller, but
I'm following your description. It makes sense.
Right. So normally when you first try it out, you don't go in whole hog and you build the structure and then you start filling the positions as you organically grow into it. You might have positions that may never get, we may not need a full-time water operator class 2 for 5 or 10 more years. But if the position's there, or you anticipate that it will at some point be created when the need arises, you go. Most of them grow somewhat organically. Most of them start out with either the highway superintendent, or on rare occasions, if there is a town engineer, they would be in that position or share that position, where one person would be head of DPW for roads and highways and someone would be head of DPW for parks and building maintenance. I've seen every structure imaginable. Within the bounds of the law, you can be pretty creative. You just can't curtail his authority as an elected official without going to mandatory referendum, or in short words, his consent. And I think if the plan was going to work and it was in the best interest of the town, I think Cricket would be in favor of it, but I don't know. I don't want to speak for him.
There's checks and balances. I mean, one of the things that will come up eventually down the road is sewer meter maintenance, which would be critical. And that might be shared service between all different municipalities when we start to go into usage as opposed to consumption, or I should say production as opposed to consumption. That's critical for this new sewer District 1. The meters have to be accurate, and they have to be cleaned, and somebody needs to clean them. But that's talking to the other sewer district, other municipalities. That may be a full-time position that we share with someone, because now we're doing the measuring.
But we were going to sketch something out, and over time it's going to change, because we don't have the great crystal ball that tells us what we're going to need 25 years from now.
No. Okay.
So the other piece of that is with Patrick running his whole division and what's going on in the office and envisioning, as you're saying, creating a vision. We have to think about compensation, what that would look like on either on a step or on an accessory, some sort of benefit.
It might be just a temporary thing for a year until somebody else is. He's also implementing the new phone system. He's going to be busy doing that on the IT
Right.
front. So where is his responsibility here being stretched in all different directions? He would still be in the office. He might be doing more office work the first year until the software is in and the phone lines are functional and the website's up. And even though he wants to get out there, the other thing we talked about is delegating training more for people, and that's what a good leader does. Sometimes that transition's tough. But having said that, those are all things I think we can slowly move in that direction. There's certain things he's responsible for now. Does that mean he's compensated? We talk about that at budget time, or do you talk about that at our next couple of meetings when he makes that transition?
Well, I think we got a transition going on, and I think we ought to be talking about, are we compensating more if we're giving him more responsibility as of the 1st of August?
I think so.
That seems fair. I mean, we had talked in the past, he had made a pitch to own the truck. Instead of having to switch his truck, it's a big hassle to drive here and switch his truck out instead of just driving the town truck home and having full personal use. We talked about it, and we almost did it, but I think there was a vote that tipped it the other way. But I mean, that's a type of benefit that he would really, that would improve the quality of his life in the interim time.
So you're talking transferring title or just giving him more free use?
I can't remember how it was set up.
It's the same thing that Cricket has and that Mike Mosley has. He would have a company car. It would be a company truck.
But we own it, he just has full use of it.
Correct.
And we do maintenance?
We do everything, and we flip them every 3 years, so there's
Okay.
Yeah.
like we do with the cell phones, things of that nature.
Yeah, I feel more comfortable in that than giving him the truck because that would be that's a whole different issue that has its own problems.
Yeah,
I agree.
but it's a...
Not because of him, I just agree.
No, yeah, there's all kinds of complications. The other thing I want to mention on this is I understand that we're going to be looking at an expense for an updated website because it costs money to bring it up to the current standards, and we need to.
So you guys are working on that, so I look forward to that number.
Expect something in the 20,000 range.
Okay, is that for next year, or is that something we're going to have to take out of fund balance?
Probably for next year. I'm not sure what his timetable is, but I know he's been working on it. I've been talking to him about it a little bit. I'll have a lot more details tomorrow.
Him meaning?
Patrick.
Okay. Okay, good. Anything else? Barbecue Pavilion, there is some information on that. I'm meeting with Dale Baker and Renee Baker Sanstead, actually just with Dale Baker Monday. The Baker family wants to make a generous donation towards the pavilion.
Which pavilion are we talking about?
The barbecue.
The chicken
okay.
pavilion.
Well, we got a whole bunch of Myers too we're talking about. I just want to be clear.
First of all, I want to be comfortable that the board's comfortable with this before we move forward. And are we comfortable with putting that pavilion up where it has been suggested on this side? We can't put it underneath the wires because of code, but we can put it against the fence. If that's the case, we can pick up the extra parking lots on their side.
I think I know what you're talking about. I'd like to sit down with a map and have you point, or walk out there and point.
Okay, we'll wrap this up in half an hour. We'll go for a walk.
Yeah, I want to see it to make sure that I'm understanding your words as opposed to just totally confusing them like we did a few minutes ago on that map.
No, that's good.
I think a pavilion will improve everything about the barbecues. Because right now, it's not terribly good looking. Different groups have different tents that they put up. The pit sort of is always the same, but it's almost chaotic in the first hour, I'd say, until if people know where to come in and park.
There's no flow.
Yeah.
It's very confusing.
Yeah.
So-
And it is not good looking at all.
So envision this, that there'll be a water line out there because the health department, you have to have water, you have to have a washing station. There'll be electric out there also for lights and for security also to have electricity for the bedding cages. So that's another plus. The fact that the drainage system is bad, so what we talked about this before, I think in the email, runs down, the drainage system will be done. Cricket's going to work on the drainage system here also to pave the entire area with a surface coat so that when everything's done, you don't see, it doesn't look like a carnival grounds. It looks like, and it'll be
I think
marked.
it'd be really good improvement.
And what I would recommend also is you put an arrow so that they drive in this and they drive out the other end, so that you don't have this going on like the buses do.
At least most of them will.
Yeah. So we'll,
We'll take a walk, that'll be great.
and everybody else is welcome, by the way.
I've been to a lot of barbecues.
Yes.
Just a comment. TCAT would like to install out there a bus shelter as well, so we ought to consider that
Are you talking on the road or in the loop?
somewhere in this vicinity.
They're in the loop anyway.
Pardon me?
They drive in the loop anyway.
Yeah.
Okay,
So they'd like to physically put a structure up, a bus shelter,
at their expense, we're
at their
talking?
expense, 100%.
So let's work that into the plan.
That's why I'm bringing it up.
So there's a couple of things, just for 5 more minutes here. There's a couple of things that you put too close to the smoke. So now you're sitting in grease. Do you put it at the other end of where they come out, so it's far away? And we'll show you, this is going to be 18 by 48, so it'll be 48 feet long. And we'll mark it off so you see exactly where it ends. Then maybe you can visualize where TCAT ought to go. Maybe TCAT ought to go.
I think TCAT needs to come here and have that discussion with us.
Yeah, and that'd be fine.
Mike, we're setting up something with TCAT to go down. Can we bring him over here and have that discussion
Yep,
with him
we'll
at
do
the
it all
same
at the
time?
same time.
Okay.
I know that's coming up maybe next week.
Yeah, I'm trying to get clarification from them.
Yeah, I know, it's herding cats, it's a problem, but let's do both of these at the same time, because I don't want to slow this down, but I want their input on it, because we can decide what we think is best for us, and they'll look at it and say, "Ah, you didn't think of X," which.
I'd rather wait and get both,
Yeah,
especially if they're willing to do it.
Some of the pavilions have the ability to pull down covers, flaps,
Mm-hmm.
when things are blowing. It would be very useful for that to have that capacity.
They're about $2,000 to $3,000 each, but I think
At least on the west side where the wind and the rain often.
it can be in the budget on that, and it can also be protection for the winter.
Right.
Because I
They
did
may
think
also
so.
add it later too.
Okay.
I'll also point out that if TCAT builds a bus station here, they're less likely to cut a route through here. If they put the money in, because they're talking about consolidating.
Oh, when you say cut, you mean stop.
Yes.
Oh,
Gotcha.
yeah, I thought you meant start or
That's what
end.
I like.
They're much like.
Cut a trail,
I
yeah.
want them to have a financial commitment to the route here that's permanently installed
That's a
here.
great idea.
Okay. Okay, we have one more thing. We're not going to do my comments. We're going to move right on to Cricket. He's got some stuff you want to talk about. Blacktopping money, that type of stuff.
Sure. You know I was here for money, right?
We knew that.
Is it snowmobile?
Crick, you'll have to speak up because I didn't put a microphone there. I didn't know anyone was going
I
to
can
speak tonight. Okay.
So, anyways, last couple, 2-3 years, I've always asked for some fronted money. There's more reimbursement money available through the consolidated highway funding through the state. So we're eligible for, it's about an extra $87,000 for reimbursement. So one project that I'm looking that I would like to kind of get done is Hillcrest is always kind of an issue with the narrowness up through there and stuff. So I was, I guess, asking if I could get fronted that money again for reimbursement at the end of the year on doing that project. So I think I'm going to be right around the $85,000, $90,000 mark. Take care of that. It's been something that's kind of been there the last couple of years. There's a lot of people that, safety concerns and things there.
It would be very similar to Myers Road
Yes. Yep.
with the storm drains and then the crusher runner.
Yep. They just have some better shoulders. A couple of the ditches there are fairly deep. Unfortunately, there's lots of roads up there, but people always kind of like to use that in a loop. It's kind of narrow, so I think it would just be, make it safer for everyone if they did choose to, pedestrians using the road as well as the traffic. But, the safety of the traffic traveling would be helpful there. So I guess, as Joe would say, I don't mind giving you a loan. So
I think that you're good for it.
yeah. So I mean that's kind of where it's at there. I mean I'm always willing to take more if you wanted to give up.
How's the price of oil and paving and all that stuff?
Well, it's steadily on the incline right now, of course. Prices are kind of holding steady about where they've been the last couple of years. So, I mean, who knows with the, obviously everybody sees the pump price going up. So, in turn, that fuels everything there. I don't foresee it getting cheaper. I've got, well, we're on scale for, like I said, we improve about 3 miles of road a year. So at this point, we've got about 2.7 of it in. So I mean, as I was going over with Joe there, kind of showing him where, I have my list of roads there where we're at, and each year it's pick and choose, and there's always, 2 or 3 that are still lagging behind, and at some point, we just, we need to catch up. I mean, obviously, we do 350,000 of improvement money for the last several years, basically. And at that rate, it's basically 3 miles of road. So with, call it 94 miles of road, I mean, you do the math, so, roads, and granted, there's different, I look at different classifications of roads, but at the end of the day, being able to improve a road every 33 years, you can only imagine at some point,
Some of the roads are going to look like
right. We're going to steadily just kind of keep creeping behind on that.
Especially as your costs go up, your amount of roads you can do goes down.
Well, right, and as Joe and I, conversated about the other day too, was, the more out of whack it kind of goes, the more it really costs to put it back just the same. So I mean, keeping a steady improvement and caught up, it certainly helps keep your maintenance costs down or the reconstruction cost lower in the future too.
So how much are you looking for next year? You looking for 400 next year instead of 350, or?
Well, I mean, 500 is kind of the number is probably would work. We'd be that happy medium. But there again, I think most of I mean, I'm always happy to make it work. So.
All right. So some background information. This is DV money. This is sales tax money. This isn't raise the rate money. We need 10 cents more. We need 134,000. This is if they're buying stuff. Okay. I'm not being political. I'm just giving the facts. Last couple of years, because we have a part-time planner, we've been starting to sock away money. Keep that in mind when we start our discussion on full-time planner. What the price is going to be here as you project. Because we still have a full-time person over there with Sue. We still have a full-time person over there with Lynn, and our full-time person if we go there, or if we go with Michael. I'm going to leave it at that. I'm not advocating anything. I'm just giving you numbers. You look at the sales tax this year. People are buying stuff. That's fine. I'll be happy to show you where the numbers are, or you've seen it in the detail report, the supervisor report, where we are with this. That number really is tough because you're halfway through, but your sales tax vacillates from month to month. So you don't, from year to year. I mean, so having said that, we're healthy, but it's not sustainable every year to be healthy. So do you jumpstart this now? Do you not jumpstart this now? Or then do you jump over dollars to save nickels?
This is why I'm looking for a 5-year projection, because we can talk about that more realistically if we're looking at 5 years out and saying, well, what would sales tax have to be able to do what we think we're doing? And are we making improper assumptions?
And this is all good. I can give you where the numbers are at the beginning of the year, where we are. Once again, this also goes back to what's your do you want a 3-month fund balance policy, 4-month, 5 months, 6 month, 6 months? Personal opinion is that was there to at least get something going, to be comfortable with our board. But now you look at it, is 4 months better? Is 5 months better? What if you take that month off? Does that free up the money for him to do that stuff? Is this something we can maybe throw some numbers on emails?
Well, one of the things I was looking at is how bad a hit did we take in 2008 when the economy crashed? I say that's a low point that we may have to think about. I want to have at least that much sitting at an amount we lost at that point to say if we hit another big crash, we're going to see something similar. I think it was a ballpark to work from to say that's how bad it might be.
That might be your baseline.
Yeah.
How much does the different companies that are going out of business in the mall, how much does that affect us?
Well, because, once again, I'm not an economist, but a lot of the brick and mortars have already been phased out because everybody shops this way.
Right.
And even though you're still getting sales tax from that, which is nice. So the brick and mortars are kind of like, they've transferred from one to the other. If you look at our trend last year, last couple of years, I don't know if you call it recession, lack of confidence, whatever, you saw it dip a little bit. You see where the trends are now. I think we're like 36 above our projection over last year. That doesn't mean that things won't change in the next couple of months or not. I don't know. We track these all the time. My point is that we have situations that we need to address now. And do you want to address them now, or do you? But you're also at a baseline. Where do you go from there? All these things come. I like to have a serious discussion about this. Maybe throw out some stuff in emails. Now, how we can maybe free up somebody this year, for him to do some of the stuff, and then maybe next year, where's a serious number where we feel comfortable? Maybe you if it's 500, maybe it's 50 more this year and 450 next year, maybe whatever. That doesn't matter to me. I need, like you said, where's our baseline? Where are we comfortable with that? The problem is that revenue stream is not controllable from us.
And we got another variable that came in, was that Supreme Court decision that allows states to charge sales tax for out-of-state sales, and that's going to be a political football as to how that gets divvied up. And so there's a whole other thing that's going on there that we have no idea how that's going to affect us. Whether we're going to see more money as a result of that, or whether we're going to see less because it's all getting siphoned in another direction.
Well, and once again, go with the baseline, work from there, trim it down a little bit perhaps. We've done that before.
Be conservative, yes.
Yeah, we've done that before. We say, okay, we got the hot hand. We did that with the park. We paved it 1 year instead of 3 because the prices were down. These are all good discussions. I like to be able to make a decision on this at our next board meeting.
You're not talking a week.
A week.
A decision on what?
On if we allocate any more for him for this year for paving.
Well, the 90,000 he's asking for is just we put it forward to get it back again. That's an easy decision, I think.
That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking to dig into the piggy bank and say, okay, here are our reserves.
Well, let me ask a different question. See, let's say we give you the 90,000. I think that's pretty. What kind of timetable do you have to do more? Because you guys got to do it. You've got some on your. I saw your list of things you're working on. It's pretty long. What could you do?
What could I do? I can get 10 miles done if I mean, there again, it's a tough thing to explain.
The 3 have already been done.
Correct.
Okay.
So it's a tough thing to explain. But I mean, at the end of the day,
You'll fix roads instead of do maintenance on them. I got that.
right. But I don't know how to explain how we get it done. We get it done. I mean, I don't.
You're saying as much as we give you, you'll fix. Do you have roads that you would outline and say, this is what I do? Because I think I want to know, if we gave you 50, what would you do with it? If we gave you 100, what would you do with it?
Right. So if you gave me 100, that would give me.
This is on top of the 90.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I mean, the 100 would get Sharpstein Road done for me, for instance. It's been on the list for the last 3 years. It's just kind of, you got to pick or choose what you drop off.
So Sharpstein's going to be what you use that grant for.
Correct.
Okay. So what would you do next?
Well, then, I've got Upper Buck Road. I've got,
East Meadow.
Yeah, that too.
This isn't paving just for the sake of paving. I think.
Right. Autumn Ridge Drive obviously needs to be done. I should have brought my list with me here, but.
Why don't you email a list and say these are the priorities, and just send it out to us, and that way we can look at it, think about it, discuss it, and say what we think. That gives me a list that I can go drive and look at it and say, is this worth putting money in now, or does it look like it could go?
Yeah, and like I said, I mean, I make it work anyway. It's totally up to you folks. I mean, like I said, I'm always a willing participant to work, and we make the money work. Whether like I said, you give me $20 million, you give me $200, I'll do what I can do with it. So,
the nice thing is he has interchangeable parts. he doesn't have to have 4 truck drivers. He just got another one Monday with Owen.
Yep.
And you have Corey, who's your janitor, who also does it.
Did Brandon pass?
Brandon will take his next one.
Okay.
And having said that, interchangeable parts mean you're in the truck, okay? The other thing is that you have, how many people pay privately on Friday?
3, 4.
3. So they work in the private sector, so they use the private sector pace. So they're already in shape. So a lot of times what happens is that it's giddy up time. They know what that means. So you bring a lot of times the private sector pace to the public sector, which I don't think happens as much as people
Not
like.
very often.
Yeah. And I agree with you, Joe. I would push for a small amount, see what he can do. And if you're comfortable with that, then we'll have another serious discussion. Maybe we'll have another discussion in August.
Yeah.
And see what the numbers are.
No, like I said, I mean, my main thing on the thing would be is just, asking guys that the last couple of years, just to front the money that we can get reimbursed, from the state. Get granted it's the left pocket versus the right, but it'd be nice to be able to borrow that money to get it replaced at the end of the season and kind of take care of something that's.
So is that something we need to do a resolution on? Is that something we just say do a budget mod? Is that something we say with your blessing go in peace? What does that what does that mean? I mean, is that something we can work on now so you can get the paperwork going on for that?
Yeah, and that's fine. I mean, you guys feel comfortable if you want to, shoot it back and forth, And
I'm talking about finding the money that you wanted at the first phase.
What do you need? What do you need from us?
just a budget mod that would go.
So we see the budget mod coming next week, you'll say, got it.
Well, I haven't heard from Katrina or Doug or Andra as to whether they're in favor of this in general.
The 90 or continuing or more money to pay?
Lending in 90 so you can go.
Of course.
Do it every year.
Okay.
Go for it.
I just don't want to make assumptions that people are.
Yeah, and like I said, that's the one thing that I'm.
So we'll get a budget mod next week and it'll look really familiar.
Yes.
You can even point it out.
And there again, if it's a discussion that goes on and it's August, if you want to, I'll always take more because it can be used, in good standing. So that's there again. It's always a comfort level. We all play the same game as far as we want to make sure the stability stays. So
what really is helpful, and I say this to all the board members, is that take them for a ride. Bring them back alive. And take them for a ride. No, take them for a ride like you did with me, and you educated me on T&L and box outs and everything else, and show them where you want to go with this stuff, and you see what a bad road may be. And I was very educational, and I did it with Jack, and I did it with Cricket on Columbus Day. And I remember that, because he was hanging by himself, and so was I. And all there said, you want to go for a ride? I said, only if you get me back alive. He says, yeah. So we went, and it was very educational, and once again.
I one of those snowplows, I just got to get the scheduling down. You aren't doing them these days.
That's okay. So,
well, my point is that when he starts talking about certain things,
Yeah.
Katrina's done snowplow group before also. I think so was Doug. So if you want to do something like that, this is extremely visual. It's extremely helpful. So that is also part of the trust factor when he says, we can do another year, but you see these cracks here, the water's going to get in there, and they're going to have problems. Well, that's up to the board's discussion.
You want to see that road, just go down Birch Road. I'll show you what the bad road looks like.
Oh, by the way, that's
That's
county road.
I know. Otherwise, if
oh yeah, by the way,
Take the first one, right?
Travel
Yeah.
Lock Road, so the county fronted the money on that, so we took care of that for them too. So there we go. So
Nice
so
job.
actually,
Nice job.
make it 4.5 miles. Okay. So thank you.
But that doesn't come out as a
You do it to yourself.
Right. So then the only other issue that I would have is obviously we made an adjustment in the office here a few months ago. I have a young lad that has some mapping education and stuff like that. We obviously have GIS stuff to get set up and things. Utilizing him, he has some ability to help out with office work and things like that. So I guess one thing I'd be looking to ask is if the board would consider a resolution for me to turn it into a, permanent position where I can utilize this person for office work as well as field work. There again, multi-talent, so,
Is he gonna get his B license too?
yes. So,
I think that.
The board members have to get the.
Well, you're good with a skid steer, I mean, you are. I mean, I think we already got you in.
So you're not allowed to drive to the town like that.
No.
So I mean, the mapping thing is something that we've got, some of the equipment and stuff kind of set up, just been trying to get it all put together. He's recently just graduated from Buffalo University, so he has education in a lot of this stuff, as well as some other background stuff.
He's not substituting for the position that we eliminated.
No, so I'm asking, basically what I'm asking is I basically hired as a labor position at this point and utilize it for A, B, C, D, X, Y, Z, whatever.
Would you want to bump if he gets his B license?
I think that in all fairness would be the right thing to do. So, I mean, there again, I could certainly, get out an email with, I mean, I'm not talking about huge money here or anything like that, but I mean, I, thought maybe $15 an hour, and then when he gets his B license, a bump of a couple bucks or something like that. But I just been very happy with productivity and some of the knowledge and
Attitude?
and absolutely. I mean, it's so. I guess it would kind of fill that gap to help me out a little bit as far as a little of the office work.
Everything.
Yes. So, but it's nice because with the multi-talent, you have the ability, if you need the extra body outside the day, you can get it, so.
Well, that's how 5 miles gets done instead of 3, right?
Right.
Yeah. Anything else you want to roll, bud? Anything else you want tonight? I mean,
No.
We're
So,
gonna say yes or no to the other request there.
right.
yeah.
So,
So that's something would be, if we so decide, that would be a resolution for next week, would be the employment.
Yep.
So far we got 2, we got the budget mod.
Yep, that's it.
Yeah, well, I mean, you can assign whatever duties you think are appropriate, but if you're going to create a position, you're going to need to have a civil service description and have it approved.
Yep, well, labor's an approved civil service position, right?
Yes,
Okay.
but the minute you turn it into admin, they're going to make it competitive class, and you're going to have to rate it as admin 1, 2, 3, or 4.
So what do you recommend would be the proper protocol?
Well, I mean, as a general laborer, it's a different civil service classification. So I'm saying if you're going to have a resolution to create a position, to alter the job description from general laborer to something else,
There's a process.
you're doing something a little bit formal as opposed to simply giving employment instructions to an employee. And it might be something that Charmaine should take a look at. Because the minute you get in, the basic rule of thumb in New York State right now, and there's a lot of reasons for it, most of the fiscal and political, is all positions are competitive.
Okay.
I represent a town that could not get, Town Law Section 20 says a town of the first or second class can have 2 exempt confidential positions related to the supervisor's office, a bookkeeper and a confidential secretary. Statutory. I have a town that they would not approve a confidential secretary for because they said it had to be competitive class. It was a 5-hour-a-month position. So they're not a civil servant. They're not in civil service, even though they are a civil servant, because the town said, fine, we give up. It says it right in the statute. You say we're not allowed to do it, we'll hire them as a contractor, independent contractor, and just pay them by the hour.
How about if we work on that?
So I'm just saying, there's a lot of, you do what you need to do, but if you're going to create a position, move a little more cautiously.
Well, let me ask quickly a question. How soon do you need this person? And do you need them more as a laborer, or you need the office stuff, or can you hire somebody as a laborer? And then we can work on this other position, put that out for open, and see what happens.
The person already exists as a laborer, right?
Correct, they're working as a tenant.
They're working as a temp.
Yeah.
So you want to...
So there's not necessarily a rush on it.
Right.
I mean, it doesn't have to be decided next week.
Right.
I mean, we can certainly look through the process. I just wanted to kind of,
FYI.
right, throw it all out there. I mean,
But-
like I said, I apologize. I was hoping to kind of look into position-wise or something a little bit more. I mean, I'm happy to have him get his B license and call him an MEO. It's just the problem is with our scale, you know, I'd rather take somebody and groom them in and bring them up through rather than, you
Yeah,
know.
I'm just trying to have you avoid the pothole before you hit it.
No, and I get it. That's what I say. I mean, and there again, I'm throwing it out there,
Right?
you know.
Well, that's Hillcrest, which is probably going to save some lives, so I'm glad you guys
Just,
suggested
you know,
that.
throwing it out there, we can
No, I drive that
research and
road
figure out what the right
many
thing is
times.
Yeah.
to do.
I think we made great progress tonight. We got you your quote-unquote loan. Move forward on that. So there's no stoppage here. Same thing with Mr. Price. We have some clarity what needs to be done if we want to move forward on that. We also have some clarity on what we want to talk about for DB money. So I think we're all good. And we'll work together on this. Thank you, guys, for missing the pothole.
Well, I just think when you want to take them from temporary labor to full-time, make sure you understand what description and what position's going to be filled, and, you know, do it once, do it right.
Yeah, I think we have to figure out whether or not this position can be described as Cricket wants it to be, or whether there's a problem with that.
Well, I mean, there's my whole thing with the civil service part. I mean, I'd be perfectly content if I had 12 guys that work up there just call it highway worker. How's that? Because with the job, you know, the task, or any other assigned duty.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's like, it lists all the basics that you're supposed to do, but then basically anything else you're told to do.
In all fairness, this may be the opportunity to actually create that position.
So,
And then the next one comes along, since we have this template of multitasking, maybe it falls into that, maybe that's something we pursue.
You can create the position and fill it part-time if you want them to have them to do dual duty. So, yeah, I'm just saying.
Long day, I know.
I'm saying there's more to just creating a job description than hiring someone and telling them, here, if you're going to put it on the record, make sure you understand what the different pieces are, because the last thing you want is someone saying, oh, you can't appoint that person.
right. Oh, no, absolutely. Like I said, I just throw it out there because, you know, the money exists, and this would actually be a savings, but it would be also a benefit on the other side to do many other things that are kind of little missing pieces. So
we have time to investigate this and come up with the right.
Let's do it right.
With the right verbiage? Would that be what I should
Bring it, say verbiage, if you want to create an action.
So like I said, I try to do my best to come beforehand and just throw this stuff out there rather than, you know, I mean, usually the normal board meeting, you just say, oh, hey, can I get someone?
I threw something out there, so I put something on all your desks, just something relating to the town center trail.
Yes.
Yeah.
Several months ago, you tasked me with working with the committee and other people to try to get some basic outlines in place. This is step one, and it needs to go under review because the planning board's about to see it, and it's going to come into play on Cornerstone.
Looks good.
Okay.
So it's not perfect, there's room for improvement, but it's step one.
Cricket go.
Yes.
Hey, I guess you're done with me?
We're all tapped out, Rick. We have no more money. We have to make it for the next
Well,
one.
you segued into popping something out, so I said, all right, there's another one.
One more thing is you have the funding request from the library. I don't know if the town board can do this type of thing. That's something for us to discuss. Maybe read it over and perhaps discuss it a week from today. As far as can the town fund library projects? I don't know if they can or not. One thing that I met with the library and also with the school is that at least the town supervisor would like to see somehow we protect our kids from breakfast to supper. Someplace they go. We have that after school programs now with Steve Cole. This is another type of thing where there's another program available. Is that something that the town can allocate the money? I don't know if this is something that's legal or not. If not, there might be other ways to raise the money for what they need it for.
I think it's really important to ensure that program continues.
Well, once again, I mean, the dynamics of what you do in the summer, where do your children go?
Okay, well, let me ask Guy a question. Is there any reason why the town of Lansing cannot contract with the town of Dryden to have a swimming place for our residents to go and do swimming and recreate there and just say, we're going to pay you to provide this for our residents?
You can do that.
So
I think we do that already with the school.
Okay, yeah, but I'm saying, so we have a school district here that's not the same as our district, and they're asking, can we as a thing fund a reading program? And I see that as the same thing.
It is.
We want to fund it for our residents. So I think that gets around the taxing issues. If this program is specifically designated for our taxing district's residents, and they're all welcome to participate in it.
Well, we also do it for drop-in center.
Yeah.
You can
So
also
I
do it
think-
as a youth program. And
Yes.
you can also expressly do it
Service.
by local law because the library is a governmental agency.
Okay.
Right, but we don't have an issue of, giving one taxing district money from a different taxing district and that issue. That's what we're trying to avoid. But we can do that because we're saying this program is open to all of our
All
taxing
town
districts,
residents.
our taxing districts
Yes.
residents.
That library exists to serve all of the town of Lansing, not just its underlying tax base. That was part of the agreement whereby they got the building.
Okay,
So, yeah, you would make that stipulation to make sure that the gift was tied to the proper tax base, but whether it's youth services, whether it's services for the needy, whether it's a gift to a government, you can make a gift to another governmental agency by local law. That's an exemption. The rule on gifting and the rule on tax base is generally applicable to supporting private entities or private operations. So we can't pick and choose we're not the federal government, we can't pick and choose what nonprofits win or lose, but we are allowed to give money to, it's an old phrase, but support of the needy. So Gadabout, for example, is a classic example of something that a town is legally allowed to support, so long as the amount of the support is tied to the value of the public benefit that your municipality receives. There's got to be some proportionality to what you're paying. So
mean-
a reading
There's also-
program is easy.
Yes, that's recreational, but also essential.
yeah, I just want to make sure that I like the program, I just don't want to hit some pothole here while we're approving it.
Or open up the floodgates.
Funding source.
Yeah.
Making sure that it's town-wide as opposed to just school district-wide is an important point,
Right.
yes.
Does this need a resolution?
Only insofar as, well, probably not. I mean,
I think it does need a resolution, because I think we need to specify that this program.
right,
has
and
to
you
be-
would have an agreement with them, like a short intermunicipal agreement outlining the scope of services and what that is going to be, and then you'd authorize that agreement to be signed.
Specifically only for this program, or would you allocate, I mean, when we put the budget together, can I put a line item in there of X amount every year for library programs?
Only if we have an agreement with them that says it's townwide.
And it can only last for 5 years, but it can be infinitely renewable.
So if we have that language, we can put that in the line of our budget, so that
And
if,
as long as there's an agreement in place, your budget could do it every year.
do we have an agreement in place now, or is that?
No.
Okay.
But it would be a short intermunicipal agreement like what some of the other towns do with private parks to,
Does that have to be set up before we do this?
I would feel more comfortable. You can't approve the money unless you have the agreement that it goes to all of our residents.
yes, no, and maybe, but the agreement is going to be like 1 page long. It'd be a very short intermunicipal agreement.
Could you,
Do we have that already?
No.
Somebody else?
No, I mean, but it's that, there are municipalities that have those agreements, like those municipalities that don't quote me, fully serviced by TCAT have those kind of agreements. There are private agreements for use of private parks and spaces that are located throughout other municipalities. These things are everywhere. I'm sure there is an existing one, but again, it's a 1 page. You'd have to have someone that knew the program.
hypothetically then, if we had this agreement drawn up by our attorney, and present it to the library administrator, and she had the blessing to sign it. And then we could sign it, or you authorize me to sign it. We do that by our next meeting in a week, then we could allocate this money.
Yes. And I don't think she's going to object to that stipulation.
Of course.
She's got 3,000 reasons not to.
So are you saying can a short IMA be in place to get this done by next Wednesday?
Please.
Okay. Do I get it done by Tuesday so she can sign it?
Well, it would take a resolution as well, so there'd be an IMA and a short resolution approving it.
Yes.
Okay.
And we can even do it Wednesday sometime.
I have a template I used in Danby for something like this that I think will plug in place pretty easily.
Good news, our liaison person? Okay. Cool.
So you'll be the first one to see it.
Okay.
You'll be the one to see it first, so that if there's any errors in it, you can fix them, so I'm not
Oh,
embarrassed.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
You're the
My
point,
legal background.
the point of the
What she
spear.
does for me, catches the typos and whoops, nope.
Okay. All right, good job, Debbie.
My apologies for running 5 minutes late. I guess we can adjourn.
Let's do it.
Do we have to have a motion to adjourn?
No,
No.
just leave.
Motion.